I accidentally left my laptop at my mother's house. When I went back, I heard her on the phone. The competency hearing is next month. Michael's crew can demolish it within a week. Hi everyone. Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Original post. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but I'm terrified and need to get this out somewhere. I'm Emma, 30F, and I own Sweet Haven Bakery in downtown Portland. It's been my dream since I was 12, watching cooking shows and experimenting with recipes in our family kitchen. My mother, 52F, always called it a cute hobby that I'd grow out of. 3 years ago, I finally opened my bakery after saving every penny from working 2 jobs and taking out a business loan. The location is perfect, a corner property in a rapidly developing neighborhood. I bought the building when it was still affordable, renovated it myself with help from friends, and built my business from scratch. We're not just surviving, we're thriving. I have 8 employees, regular wholesale contracts with local coffee shops, and a loyal customer base that lines up every Saturday for our signature croissants. My mother, Janet, is a real estate agent who specializes in commercial properties. She's been in the business for 20 years and knows everyone in the local development scene. My younger brother, Michael, 28M, works as a contractor specializing in commercial demolition and site preparation. They've always been close, while I was the weird one who preferred flour-dusted aprons to power suits. Everything changed 6 months ago when a major developer announced plans for our neighborhood. Property values skyrocketed overnight. My building, which I bought for $400,000, is now worth over $1.2 million. Suddenly, my mother started showing unusual interest in my little bakery. It started subtly. She'd drop by during busy hours, loudly commenting to customers about how I looked exhausted and overwhelmed. She'd shake her head sympathetically when I'd rush between the kitchen and register, telling anyone who'd listen that I was working myself to death and refusing help. Then came the family dinner 3 weeks ago. My mother sat me down with this concerned expression and said she was worried about my mental health. She claimed I was showing signs of obsessive behavior and manic episodes. Her evidence: I wake up at 3 a.m. to start baking. I spent my last vacation testing new recipes. I talk about flour types excessively. I've turned down 3 dates because they conflicted with catering orders. Sweetie, she said, holding my hand, this isn't normal. You're consumed by this bakery. It's not healthy. You need help. I laughed it off initially, thinking she was just being dramatic. But then Michael chimed in, saying he'd noticed my deterioration too. They'd apparently been discussing my condition for months. They suggested I see a psychiatrist they'd found, Dr. Brennan, who happens to be married to my mother's business partner. I declined politely, but they kept pushing. Every conversation became about my mental state. Every business decision was questioned as potentially irrational. They started showing up at the bakery more frequently, pointing out every small mistake to my employees, asking them if they'd noticed any strange behavior from me. Yesterday, I discovered the truth. I'd left my laptop at my mother's house after Sunday dinner. When I went back to get it, I heard her on the phone in her office. The door was cracked, and I stood frozen as I listened. The competency hearing is scheduled for next month, she said. Dr. Brennan will testify that she's showing clear signs of obsessive-compulsive personality disorder with manic tendencies. We have documentation of her working 18-hour days, her refusal to delegate, her hoarding of baking equipment. Yes, the building is worth $1.2 million now, but Anderson Development will pay $1.8 million once she's removed. Michael's crew can have it demolished within a week of transfer. The conservatorship papers are ready. My own mother is trying to have me declared mentally incompetent to steal my business and sell it to developers. I grabbed my laptop and left silently, my hands shaking so badly I could barely drive. When I got home, I found an email she'd accidentally sent to my address instead of Michael's. It contained a timeline: file for conservatorship citing mental health concerns, gain control of my assets, sell the bakery property to Anderson Development, split the profits after expenses, which included a $300,000 management fee for handling my affairs. The email also mentioned they'd been photographing me at work, documenting every time I stayed late, every morning I arrived early, every weekend I spent at the bakery. They'd interviewed former employees, twisting normal workplace conversations into evidence of instability. They'd even contacted the 3 men I'd turned down for dates, getting them to confirm I'd chosen work over normal social interaction. I'm scheduled to appear before a judge in 3 weeks for a competency evaluation. My mother has already filed the paperwork. She's listed herself as the proposed conservator with Michael as alternate. They've painted a picture of a woman spiraling into obsessive madness, unable to manage her own affairs, squandering her life on an unhealthy fixation with baking. The worst part? Some of it sounds convincing on paper. I do work long hours. I have spent most of my savings on equipment and ingredients. I did skip my cousin's wedding because we had a massive catering order. Without context, my dedication looks like obsession. My success looks like mania. My passion looks like mental illness. I've contacted a lawyer, but she says these cases are hard to fight when family members appear genuinely concerned and have documentation. The fact that my mother is established in the community while I'm just that girl who makes pastries doesn't help. Dr. Brennan is respected, and his preliminary assessment carries weight. I don't know what to do. This bakery isn't just my business, it's my life, my future, my proof that I could build something meaningful. And my own mother wants to destroy it for money. I can't sleep. I can't eat. The irony isn't lost on me that her false accusations are now creating the very stress and anxiety she claims I already have. Every time the phone rings, I panic, thinking it's another part of her plan falling into place. My employees have noticed something's wrong, but how do I explain that my mother is trying to have me declared insane to steal my business? I'm documenting everything now, but it might be too late. If anyone has experience with conservatorship cases or family members attempting financial exploitation through mental health claims, please help. I'm drowning here, and I'm terrified I'm going to lose everything I've built because my mother sees dollar signs where I see dreams. Update 1, 3 days later. I can barely type this through my rage and relief. Remember how I mentioned being at my mother's house when I overheard her phone call? What I didn't mention was that I'd been recording. Let me back up. After posting here, hundreds of you reached out with advice. The most consistent message was, document everything and check if you're in a one-party consent state. Oregon is a one-party consent state. I had started recording conversations with my mother 2 weeks ago after she began her concerned act, thinking I was just being paranoid. When I went back for my laptop, I hit record on my phone out of habit. I captured the entire phone conversation, plus another 20 minutes of her discussing the plan with Michael after he arrived. The recording is crystal clear. They explicitly discuss knowing I'm mentally competent but believing I'm too stupid to fight back, the forged signatures on several of the supporting documents bribing 2 of my former employees to provide false statements Dr. Brennan agreeing to provide diagnosis without ever meeting me personally, plans to demolish the bakery within days of gaining control to prevent me from fighting back, detailed distribution of profits from the Anderson development, Sulami mother saying she always was too soft. Spending all that time baking instead of learning how the real world works. She won't even see it coming. But that's not all. After my first post, a customer who works in IT reached out. She helped me recover deleted emails from my mother's account. She had used my laptop and saved her password. We found 6 months of correspondence between her, Michael, and Anderson Development. They'd been planning this since the development announcement. There are emails where they discuss my mental health act as a performance and debate whether to wait until after the holidays to maximize sympathy from the judge. The smoking gun. An email from Michael to the Anderson Development CEO. Once we have control of Emma's property, demolition can begin immediately. I'll handle the permits through my contacts at the city. She won't be able to stop us once she's been declared incompetent. Even if she recovers, the sale will be complete and the building demolished before any competency reversal. My lawyer, Sarah, nearly fell out of her chair when I brought her everything. She immediately contacted the district attorney's office. What my mother and brother were attempting isn't just fraud, it's conspiracy to commit elder abuse. Yes, financial exploitation through conservatorship abuse falls under this. Forgery, bribery, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Today, the FBI raided my mother's real estate office. I wasn't there, but her assistant called me, crying. Agents seized all her computers, client files, and phones. They also raided Michael's construction company and Dr. Brennan's practice. Turns out, this isn't their first attempt at this scheme. They found evidence of 2 other property owners, both women who owned businesses, who were targeted similarly over the past 3 years. One lost her yoga studio. Another lost her boutique hotel. Both were declared temporarily incompetent, their properties sold, before they could fight back. The competency hearing has been cancelled. The judge issued an emergency restraining order against my mother, Michael, and Dr. Brennan. They cannot come within 500 feet of me, my bakery, or my home. Their assets have been frozen pending investigation. My mother called from her lawyer's phone, she doesn't know I know it's his number, sobbing, begging me to make this misunderstanding go away. She claimed it was all Michael's idea, that she was trying to protect me, that she never meant for it to go this far. I didn't answer. Michael left a voicemail threatening me, saying I'm destroying the family, that I'll regret this. I forwarded it to the FBI agent handling the case. The local news picked up the story, prominent real estate agent arrested in conservatorship fraud scheme. Her mugshot is everywhere. The real estate board has suspended her license pending investigation. Michael's contractor license is under review. Dr. Brennan has been suspended from practice. But here's the part that really gets me. My mother's sister, Aunt Linda, called yesterday. She told me this isn't the first time my mother has done something like this. 20 years ago, she tried to have their mother, my grandmother, declared incompetent to access her retirement savings. The family intervened, and it was swept under the rug. Aunt Linda has been estranged ever since, but she's willing to testify about the pattern of behavior. My employees have been incredible. When news broke, they organized shifts to ensure I'm never alone at the bakery. Regular customers have started a Support Sweet Haven campaign, and sales have actually increased. The irony isn't lost on me. My mother's attempt to steal my failing business has only made it more successful. I'm still processing everything. The woman who raised me, who taught me to stand up for myself, tried to destroy me for money. She looked me in the eye at family dinners, hugged me, told me she loved me, all while planning to have me declared insane and steal everything I'd worked for. Tomorrow, I meet with the federal prosecutor. They're building a RICO case. Apparently, the connection between my mother's real estate firm, Michael's construction company, and Dr. Brennan's practice constitutes an ongoing criminal enterprise. They've identified at least 5 victims over 8 years, with total losses exceeding $3 million. I'm safe. My bakery is safe. But I'm not the same person I was a week ago. I've learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones plotting your destruction. And sometimes, the only thing standing between you and catastrophe is an accidentally pressed record button and a community that believes in you more than your own family does. Update 2, 6 weeks later. The last 6 weeks have been a whirlwind of depositions, court appearances, and revelations that keep getting worse. I thought I knew the extent of my mother and brother's betrayal, but every document unsealed, every testimony given, reveals new depths to their deception. First, the investigation has expanded. The FBI found evidence of 11 victims over 12 years, not 5. My mother specifically targeted female business owners, particularly those in creative fields, a florist, a jewelry designer, a photographer, 2 restaurateurs, and others. She believed artistic women would be easier to paint as eccentric or unstable. Dr. Brennan provided false diagnoses for all of them. Michael's company handled the demolition of their properties, erasing their life's work within days of the property transfers. The florist, Rebecca, reached out to me. She lost her shop 5 years ago and attempted suicide afterward. She'd built that business after her husband died, and losing it destroyed her. She's been in therapy ever since, believing she actually had been mentally ill, that losing her shop was her fault. When she saw the news about my case, she broke down. She's now part of the class action lawsuit we're filing. During discovery, we found a PowerPoint presentation, I'm not kidding, that my mother created titled Operation Sweet Haven. She'd presented it to Michael and 2 other associates. It detailed my daily routine, my psychological profile based on her observations, and a timeline for my mental deterioration under their pressure campaign. There was a slide calculating the expected profit margins and another discussing how to handle potential resistance from my employees or regular customers. One slide still haunts me. It said, Emma's weakness, believes family loves her. Exploit maternal concern angle. She won't suspect until too late. She was right. I didn't suspect. Even when she was acting strangely, I thought maybe she was going through menopause or having a midlife crisis. I never imagined this level of calculated cruelty. The criminal case is moving forward. My mother has been charged with 18 counts of fraud, conspiracy, elder abuse, forgery, and racketeering. She faces up to 40 years in prison. Michael has been charged with 12 counts, including conspiracy and fraud. Dr. Brennan faces loss of his medical license and up to 20 years in prison. 3 other associates have been arrested. My mother tried to plea bargain, offering to testify against Michael and Dr. Brennan in exchange for a reduced sentence. The prosecutor played me the recording of her throwing her son under the bus without hesitation, claiming he manipulated her, that she was another victim. The same son she'd conspired with for over a decade. Michael, from his cell, then offered to testify against her, providing documents showing she was the mastermind. The civil case is where things get interesting. My lawyer discovered that my mother had taken out a $2 million insurance policy on my life 2 years ago, listing herself as the beneficiary. She also had power of attorney documents prepared, ready to be filed once I was declared incompetent. The plan was even more sinister than I realized. If the conservatorship failed, they had contingencies. Last week was the preliminary hearing for the civil case. I had to face my mother in court. She looked smaller somehow, older. Her usually perfect hair was gray at the roots. She tried to make eye contact, even mouthed, "I'm sorry," at one point. I looked right through her. This woman gave birth to me, raised me, taught me to tie my shoes and ride a bike. She also tried to destroy me for money she didn't even need. Her real estate business was successful. This was about more than greed. It was about control, about punishing me for succeeding outside her expectations. Michael showed no remorse. He sat there, glaring at me, occasionally whispering angrily to his lawyer. At one point, he stood up and called me a vindictive bitch who was destroying the family. The judge held him in contempt. He's now facing additional charges for witness intimidation after he tried to contact me through a cousin. The financial forensics revealed that my mother and Michael had already spent some of the money they expected to make from my property. They'd taken out loans against the expected sale, bought luxury cars, and Michael had put a down payment on a $3 million house. They're now facing bankruptcy on top of criminal charges. The community support has been overwhelming. Local businesses have offered to testify about my mental competence and business acumen. The mayor's office issued a proclamation recognizing Sweet Haven as a vital community business. A GoFundMe started by customers to help with legal fees has raised $80,000, though I'm directing it all to a fund for other victims of conservatorship abuse. But the victories feel hollow sometimes. I'm in therapy now, trying to process the betrayal. I have nightmares where I'm in a psychiatric facility, screaming that I'm sane while my mother signs papers in the background. I've had panic attacks in my own bakery, the place that used to be my sanctuary. I've installed security cameras everywhere and changed all my locks, even though they're under restraining orders. The hardest part has been the extended family. Some support me, horrified by what my mother did. Others think I should have handled it privately and not involved law enforcement. My grandmother, now 89 and in assisted living, cried when I told her. She said, "I knew Janet was capable of this. I should have warned you. I should have done more when she tried it with me." 2 of my mother's victims didn't survive to see justice. They took their own lives after losing everything. Their families are part of the lawsuit now. Every time I feel guilty about destroying my mother's life, I remember Rebecca's suicide attempt, remember the 2 women who didn't survive, remember that I was just the latest target in a long line of victims. Next month is the main criminal trial. I'll have to testify, face them both, relive everything. But I'll do it. Not just for me, but for Rebecca, for the photographer who now lives in her car, for the restaurateur who never cooked again after losing her restaurant, for the 2 women who aren't here to tell their stories. My bakery is thriving despite, or perhaps because of, everything. We're booked solid for the next 3 months. I've hired 4 more employees and am looking at opening a second location. Every success feels like a small victory against the woman who tried to steal it all. The irony is that if my mother had just asked for money, I would have helped her. If she'd been struggling, I would have been there. Instead, she chose betrayal, conspiracy, and cruelty. She gambled my sanity, my future, my life's work against a payday. She lost everything. Final update, 4 months later. I'm writing this from my new office in my second bakery location. It's been 4 months since the trial ended, and I finally feel ready to share the conclusion of this nightmare that became, in its own twisted way, a story of triumph. The criminal trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified for 2 days, detailing everything from the moment my mother started her concerned act to discovering their conspiracy. The prosecutor played my recordings in court. You could hear a pin drop in that courtroom as my mother's voice echoed, calling me too stupid to fight back, and discussing how quickly they could demolish my life's work. My mother's defense was that she genuinely believed I was mentally ill and that the recordings were taken out of context. This fell apart when the prosecutor presented the PowerPoint presentation, the years of similar schemes, and testimony from Dr. Brennan's own staff confirming he'd never actually evaluated any of the victims. Her lawyer tried to argue diminished capacity due to stress, but the jury didn't buy it. Michael's defense was more aggressive. He claimed I'd always been jealous of his close relationship with our mother and that this was revenge for childhood grievances. His lawyer actually tried to suggest I was indeed mentally unstable, pointing to my emotional testimony as evidence. This backfired spectacularly when my employees, customers, suppliers, and even competitors testified about my competence and business acumen. Dr. Brennan pleaded guilty halfway through the trial in exchange for testifying against my mother and brother. His testimony was damning. He detailed how my mother approached him 5 years ago with a scheme, how they'd refined their approach with each victim, how they'd chosen targets based on vulnerability and asset value. He admitted to never evaluating any of the women he'd diagnosed, simply signing whatever my mother prepared. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. My mother was found guilty on all 18 counts. The judge sentenced her to 14 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for 10 years. When the sentence was read, she collapsed. As court officers helped her up, she looked at me and said, "I'm still your mother." I responded, "No, you're not." Those were the last words I'll ever speak to her. Michael was found guilty on all 12 counts and sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. He screamed obscenities at me as they led him away, blaming me for destroying his life. He apparently doesn't see the irony that he was literally planning to demolish my life's work for profit. 3 other conspirators received sentences ranging from 2 to 5 years. Dr. Brennan got 6 years and permanently lost his medical license. His wife divorced him and took everything in the settlement. The civil case was resolved last month. The judgment was staggering. After selling my mother's real estate business, her home, cars, and all assets, plus Michael's construction company and assets, plus recovering the money they'd stolen from previous victims, the total came to approximately $4.8 million. This was divided among all 11 victims based on our losses. My portion was $580,000, enough to open 2 more bakery locations and establish a foundation for women entrepreneurs. But the money isn't even the best part. The best part is that every single one of my mother's victims has rebuilt. Rebecca reopened a flower shop with her settlement. The photographer started a gallery. The restaurateur is running a food truck while she saves for a new restaurant. We meet monthly for coffee, supporting each other through the trauma and triumph. The real estate board permanently revoked my mother's license. Even if she serves her minimum sentence, she'll never work in real estate again. Michael's contractor license was permanently revoked, and he's been blacklisted by every construction union and association in the Pacific Northwest. Their professional lives are over. The family fallout has been significant but clarifying. Those who sided with my mother have been cut from my life. But I've grown closer to Aunt Linda, my grandmother, and cousins I barely knew. They've become the family I choose, not the one I was stuck with. My grandmother even started coming to the bakery every Thursday, teaching my staff her secret Danish recipes that my mother never wanted to learn. Sweet Haven now has 3 locations with a 4th planned for next year. I employ 32 people, all paid well above minimum wage with benefits. We supply 17 coffee shops and restaurants. Last month, Portland Monthly featured us as Best Bakery in the City, with a full article about our story of survival and success. I've been in therapy consistently, working through the betrayal trauma. Some days are harder than others. I still have nightmares occasionally, still flinch when someone expresses concern about my work hours. But I'm healing. I'm learning to trust again, to believe that not everyone who claims to love me is planning my destruction. Last week, I got a letter from my mother in prison. I didn't open it. I gave it directly to my lawyer to file with the restraining order documentation. I've heard through family that she's not doing well in prison, that she's aged 20 years in 6 months, that she cries constantly. I feel nothing. She killed whatever love I had for her when she plotted to destroy everything I'd built and call me insane for the crime of being passionate about my work. Michael tried to contact me through another inmate's family member. He wanted me to know that he's found religion, that he's sorry, that he hopes I can forgive him someday. I forwarded this to the authorities, and he lost his phone privileges for violating the restraining order. I will never forgive him. Forgiveness is for people who make mistakes, not for those who methodically plan your destruction over years. The investigation revealed one final chilling detail. In my mother's home safe, they found a journal where she'd been documenting my symptoms for 3 years. Every normal stress response, every tired morning, every declined social invitation was twisted into evidence of mental illness. The prosecutor said it was one of the most detailed fraud preparations he'd ever seen. She'd been building her case against me since before I even opened my bakery, betting against my success from day one. But here's the thing about betting against someone's dreams. Sometimes you lose spectacularly. My mother bet that I was weak, that my passion was madness, that my dedication was disease. She lost her freedom, her career, her money, her family, and her future. I gained a stronger business, a chosen family, a network of survivor sisters, and the knowledge that I can survive the worst betrayal imaginable. To anyone facing family members who are trying to exploit, manipulate, or destroy you, document everything. Trust your instincts. Don't let, but their family, stop you from protecting yourself. Family is supposed to be your safe harbor, not the storm trying to sink your ship. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to let toxic family members face the consequences of their cruelty. Sweet Haven's motto, painted on the wall of all 3 locations, now reads, rising despite the ashes. Because that's what we do. We rise. We survive. We thrive. Even when the people who should protect us try to burn us down, we rise from those ashes stronger, wiser, and surrounded by the family we choose. My mother thought my dedication to baking was insanity. Maybe it is. But it's the kind of insanity that builds empires from flour and dreams, that creates joy from butter and sugar, that proves that passion isn't pathology, it's power. And that power is something no one, not even the woman who gave me life, can steal from me. The bakery opens in an hour. I have croissants to shape, dreams to build, and a life to live, one that my mother will only ever see through prison bars and newspaper clippings. Her loss. My triumph. Justice, much like a perfect soufflé, requires the right ingredients, proper timing, and unwavering patience. I've mastered all three.